Greetings, fellow passengers aboard the hypnotic crazy train. You are listening to the Brain Software Podcast, episode 151, and I'm Chris Thompson. Today, Mike Mandel and I will be looking at the top 10 ways that you can change everything. So stay tuned.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the Nobel Prize Committee. I am honored and privileged to call to the podium the winner of this year's Nobel Prize for Science in the category of quantum physics. The 2020 winner of the prize is known for his groundbreaking work in hyperdimensional travel and his promise to bring the 60s with him tonight. So let's welcome back from the future, the man in the DeLorean, our own living, breathing Schrodinger's cat, Dr. David Ambrose. Hey man, so far out to be here, Scro. I'm planning on using the cash prize to build a huge sound system, man. Can you dig it? It's gonna be out of sight. Or as Jerry Garcia said to me over a shared pipe in Woodstock the other day, whatever happened to that old tranquility we used to know, man? These are days of victory, man.
So now it's time to welcome to the very candelabra of continuity, the hypnotic mannish boy.
Hurrah!
The reigning emperor of the hypnotic universe, and a man whose musical tastes have changed drastically since COVID-19. Here he is, Mike Mandel.
Christopher, Chris.
Yes.
Good to be here, buddy. And away we go for 150 podcasts under our belt. And we just keep taking the hypnotic world by storm because we are the hypnotic storm. We are the hypnotic crazy train. And all our listeners, you are one of us.
Yes, you are. You're all hypnotic storm riders along with us. So we're going to get right into it. We've got some fun stuff to talk about. Mike, I know you have created an awesome top 10 list that I've had essentially no involvement with. So it's going to be fun for me to hear it for the first time and throw in hilarious remarks wherever possible as my value-added contribution. Before we do, I want to mention there's a new offer that we put on our website. It's been there for a little while, but we haven't really talked about it. So I want to mention that if you like this podcast, if you like the kind of stuff that we teach, the personal development tools, the communication, the ideas, you're going to love our program called the Personal Growth Membership. It's a bundle of some of our absolutely best personal training material, all in one bundle, all very, very low priced. Go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com. You should find a very clear link for the personal development material that's on our site, and you'll find a membership called the Personal Growth Membership. Simple to find, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes as well, which you'll find at MikeMandelHypnosis.com/podcast/151. Okay, let's get on with the show.
Chris, you notice I never interrupt your URLs anymore?
Yeah, it's amazing.
I'm growing up.
You're growing up.
Hey, let's just mention Elon Musk and SpaceX. I mean, good grief, man. To see the stuff this guy is doing privately, recyclable rocket engines. I mean, all his stuff. Reusable rocket engines. Yeah. And landing on ships, although that was a bit questionable because the camera went off when it supposedly landed.
It always shakes. And the
MCA contact,
all the other crazies out there.
Yeah, MCA contacted me right away.
It's photoshopped.
MCA thought that it was like a different ship. He said they get clearly cut out at that moment. So that's
it always does. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So listen. But what a metaphor for the average person to realize this guy goes to university in Kingston, Ontario, Canada, and just goes out and changes the world of online finance with PayPal. That was him, wasn't it?
Yep.
Was one of the main people that.
Right.
And then SpaceX and Tesla. I mean, the guy is just a high achiever. Excellence.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing thing. You know, a lot of people give Elon Musk a hard time for just the way he behaves, the claims that he makes, all kinds of what a lot of people think are crazy, wild ass, impossible claims, yet he doesn't let any of that stop him. So when he started SpaceX, he used the money that he got from selling PayPal to do a couple of things. He started Tesla, but he also started SpaceX, and he was essentially out of money on his third rocket launch attempt. They had bought rockets from Russians, and actually, I'm trying to remember what the details are behind the start of SpaceX. It's in the wonderful book written by Ashley Vance, which is just called Elon Musk. Fantastic book.
Ashley Van wrote that book?
Pardon?
Ashley Van wrote that book?
Vance.
Oh, Vance. Okay, because I knew an Ashley Van.
Oh, yeah.
That was kind of interesting. Okay.
But he risked basically all of the wealth that he had from PayPal. He risked that on trying something new, SpaceX. Let's see if we can make this happen. And his dream was simple, that long term, he wants the human species to become multiplanetary, because God forbid anything really bad should ever happen on Earth, it would wipe us all out. Now,
right.
That sounds really bad, but I suppose eventually, in whether it be 1 million years or 10 million, who knows how many years, something probably bad would happen on planet Earth. And hey, wouldn't it be cool to know that we've future-proofed, right, this species? So he starts SpaceX, and I mean, we're one small step through this process where he has now launched 2 astronauts into orbit.
Yeah.
And docked with the International Space Station, something that Americans have not done in 9 years. And it's the very first time that it was done by a commercial launch, like not a NASA launch, but a private company.
Unbelievable. There's a lesson there for all of us if I can just figure out what it is.
Yeah. But, so I think it's an important lesson in just baby steps. We always talk about making progress in your life in baby steps, and Elon Musk is a really good example of that, because he just won't quit. And he will do eventually, over the long run, you will see this guy do stuff that people thought, you're crazy, you're nuts, it'll never happen. And you know what? He's not always on time, but it happens, and it blows people away.
That's amazing. But I think we need to point out for our beloved listeners at this point that there's very strong evidence that one of the 2 astronauts, Doug Hurley, is in fact Gus Grissom. It's so obvious. If you look at his picture, Chris, I would know that brush cut anywhere.
Yeah, he looks slightly tired Gus around Grissom. The eyes. I was wondering if you would bring that up, Mike.
I did.
Yes. So look at the pictures. It is quite the conspiracy theory.
But it's obviously true. So listen, I got the think tank wound up, and I got 3 words for us. And the words are, as you know, I'm keeping the think tank right on my desk now.
Remind people, before you even say them, what is the purpose of the 3 think tank words?
Well, the think tank words, we're introducing chaos into what we're doing, although some would say it's, like Michael Goldblatt would say, it's too chaotic already. Yeah. But the interesting thing is, we introduce chaos, and it pushes the brain in a completely different direction. We're doing Edward de Bono's provocative operation by introducing something totally random and seeing how it maps across into what we're talking about.
Seeing how it fits into the conversation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so cool. So what are the 3 words for today?
The words are reincarnation, crisscross, and pianist. Notice I'm not saying pianist, because it can sound...
It sounds a lot like
something else. Yes. So
pianist.
let's start with reincarnation. What are you getting with that?
Well, obviously I get reinventing yourself out of that.
Oh, that's nice.
I don't know why I said that was obvious, as if you were going to know that or something. But
I didn't.
To me, I get the idea of reinventing yourself. I've done this throughout my professional career a few times already, right?
Yeah.
I used to be an engineer, then I was a stock analyst, and now I work with you. I'm a hypnosis trainer, and I run our business, and we do awesome stuff, and it's a totally different lifestyle than any other career that I've had. So to me, reincarnation, reinvent yourself. You don't have to stay who you are doing what you're
doing.
Buddy,
that's fantastic. Yeah, because I basically did the same thing. I was a stage hypnotist forever.
Yeah,
and I had framed myself
into a communicator, and
reframed as a communicator, and then it opened all these other doors. Also, I'm thinking that since we've hit 150 podcasts, we're now on 151. We need to think in terms of reincarnating the podcast. So we bring it back not as exactly the same, but what new things we're going to continue bringing into it.
I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, because we've all been deeply concerned, and this is an intervention.
The intervention. I haven't heard that one in a while. Okay, let's go to crisscross. What do you get from that?
Well, crisscross, I don't know why, but my unconscious immediately jumped to Halloween. And when I was a kid, they used to have commercials saying, to be safe, don't crisscross when you're trick-or-treating. Do one side of the street and then the other. So it, for whatever reason, completely random, from crisscross, I get the idea of doing things in an organized and safe manner so they don't screw everything up.
Okay, that's kind of interesting.
How about you? I'm sure you get something totally different.
Totally different. With me, I think of
Which
something
is the point.
It's the entire point, yeah. In mentalism and magic, there's a card force called the crisscross force, and it depends on time misdirection. And the power of the crisscross force is you're talking to the person. It seems as though they cut the shuffle deck anywhere they want, and you're giving a bit of time misdirection, talking about something else and recapping. Then when they look at the card they have cut to, they do it all themselves. It is a different one. It's one that you've already planned. It's not the one they actually cut to. It seems like they've had free choice, but in reality, you're controlling their behavior. And this, to me, now ties back into the whole covert hypnosis thing that we were talking about for 3 episodes of Brain Software. Yeah. The idea of seemingly giving someone choice, but it is the illusion of choice, which we also see with things like double binds and so on.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of mentalism, Mike,
we are.
How interested are you in teaching some of your own effects?
Well, it's funny you should say that, Chris, and we haven't planned this discussion at all.
No, we have not.
Point. No, but I have been working on a document, which is Mandel on mentalism, and it's 10 mentalism effects with and without playing cards. Some are ridiculously easy to do, and these are all things I actually did on stage, including in big theater shows, Sanderson Center, and large theaters with huge audiences. And these effects are killer. So I'm thinking of putting this together. Once we can start recording in our studio with alarming frequency, I want to create this product so people can buy Mandel on mentalism and amaze and astound their friends. Some things
that's going to be awesome.
In fact,
by the way,
yeah.
For those listening, I earlier mentioned our personal growth membership. Well, one of the new products that Mike and I are well on our way in planning and soon to be filmed and edited is called Easy Self-Hypnosis, and that will be added to the personal growth membership at no extra charge. So I recommend you check it out on our website.
Well,
all right, and we got
added value. I said vatted value, Chris.
Yeah, vatted value. There we go. And we got the third word here now.
Pianist. What do you get from that? I think of myself, because right away, to me, the ultimate pianist is Glenn Gould, Toronto's Glenn Gould, who's since deceased. And I am the Glenn Gould of hypnosis. So there you go. It's entirely about me.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, just what I get out of it is when my younger sister was about, I want to say 4 years old, she came home from her kindergarten class. Maybe she was 5, but certainly 4 or 5. She came home from her kindergarten class where her teacher had played a vinyl record of a song that the class was all singing along to. And my sister, I guess, really loved this. Now, we had a piano at home. She'd never played it. My father was the only one in the house who'd played some piano. And my sister, at the age of 4 or 5, standing at the piano, barely tall enough to reach the keys, started playing and taught herself how to play with 2 hands.
Oh my goodness.
Unbelievable. My parents came home and they couldn't believe it. Now, obviously at that age, she was just a very beginner, but she was already intuitively playing with 2 hands just by modeling the sounds.
And she was what, 4?
4 or 5 years old. Yeah.
That's interesting because Glenn Gould had perfect pitch at 3, so it makes it seem like nothing now, doesn't it?
What's that?
Glenn Gould had perfect pitch at 3. I said he could read music before he could read words. I said it sort of makes your sister Kralus's
it's pretty much my sister. She's got that talent, that musical talent.
I know, she's very musical, very gifted.
I mean, I don't, you could go one of 2 ways with this. You could say, hey, look, if you're not born with that particular talent, don't even bother. You don't have it. I don't have it with music. That's a non-empowering way to think about it. So instead, who can you find to teach you something that does have that talent naturally?
Nice.
Right? Because then you can approach mastery much, much faster. All right.
That's good, man.
That's
so
it.
let's go to the top 10 ways to change everything. I mean, everything.
All
and
right.
these have been picked carefully to work together very, very well. So the first one I've got is the obvious one. Change your state. Because when you change your state, everything changes. Just like when the lawn tree blooms, everything changes. And by changing your state, recognize when you are in a disempowered or unresourceful state for the task at hand and change it. You can learn to do this in an instant, but the key is to recognize those powerful states. We like to stack them on the awesome anchor, which is the way we do it is use your non-dominant hand, touching the thumb tip to the tip of the ring finger. Squeeze, like press them together, stare at it, and say, awesome.
Yeah.
And what that does is we begin to anchor all these powerful states when we're experiencing them onto our awesome anchor. So then, when you notice you're not in a great state, fire your awesome anchor, which will deplete it slightly, but again, your state will change and you'll be back to feeling empowered. And you have to recognize when you're empowered and when you're not. When you are empowered, anchor it, add it to the awesome anchor. I even do that with music, as you know, Chris. If I hear music that affects me powerfully because I'm an auditory primarily, I'll notice the state I'm in when hearing powerful music. There's a musical, there's a group or band or musical engineers, whatever you want to call them. They're called Two Steps from Hell. And they do amazing heroic music. I think their mandate is music can make you brave. And you listen to some of these things, if you're doing a workout or whatever, they'll put you in a powerful state, then anchor it, setting your awesome anchor. So that's number one.
That's a really good point about anchors, because we all have them. We just have to discover the ones that we already have. Music can be a wonderful anchor. I remember when I was living in Ottawa and I would drive out to University of Ottawa, where I did my MBA night school. And I used to love putting on the radio Where the Streets Have No Name by YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Good
because
song.
it would totally pump me up. And I don't know why I was doing it at this particular time on my way to night school.
Well, it's because you adored Bono.
Yeah, but maybe I just wanted to be in the right state to study finance or whatever class I happened to be going to that night. And it was wonderful. And that song, Where the Streets Have No Name, I think to the music video that they shot on top of a building in
when they copied the Beatles. Somewhere. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I can't remember where they were. I think they were in LA somewhere downtown. That video is just so freaking empowering when you watch the crowd forming and the police are there just doing traffic control and everyone's just like thumping to the music and enjoying this live concert that's happening. And that is amazing. What an anchor.
Now, but not to burst the bubble, but that was 2 points to that. That was copying what the Beatles did on the roof of Abbey Road Studios.
Yes.
When the police arrived and everything. But admittedly, that was a very good video. I do agree with you.
Yeah.
Aren't you glad, though, when you were going to do your study, your night school study, that you didn't use the song Sunday Bloody Sunday instead?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that would not be as
probably not the most.
But everyone has an anchor, whether it could be something that you think back to that was just an awesome experience. It could be laughter is a great one because we all have so many experiences, and that I would argue is an anchor simply because it's an automatic unconscious response. You've done it during peak state so many times. So if you laugh on purpose, as we learned from our friend James Hazelrig, you can get back into these awesome peak states.
Yes, I think you're smiling, you release serotonin and all of these things and endorphins when you're laughing. And as our dear friend Melissa Tiers, excellent trainer, she brings in inappropriate laughter, which is freaking brilliant. That's well, we haven't done that in ages. Yeah. That just to be in our list. Now let's talk about this one. The next one is get out of environment. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm talking about Robert Diltz's logical
I figured
levels.
You were talking about Diltz. Yeah.
Bottom level is environment, where you live, breathe, have your being, what's going on in your life. Above that is behavior, because how you act, every level you go up takes in all the levels below. The higher you intervene on the hierarchy, the more energy it takes to do that, but the change is more profound. So above environment, we have behavior. What you do will affect your environment. If you have, if you are being bullied, that's your environment. You take on behaviors of self-defense classes, and that all of a sudden your environment will change when somebody tries to bully you and you neck crank him and put him in the emergency ward instead. Now, above that behavior, we have capability. Things that we can do, capability or just abilities. We can't do what we're not capable of. Now, without going any further up the list to save time, a lot of people get stuck at the level of environment and they no longer adopt new behaviors and adapt to the situation, but you can tell when people are at environment. Do you remember how?
Oh, for sure, because they're going to blame what's going on around them. They're going to say, well, my boss never treats me the same as he treats my colleagues, and I'm never going to get the promotion. Life's not fair. Life is
This
just
always
happening
happens to me. Nothing works out. Yeah, this will go wrong. That's
it's woe is me attitude, right?
Yes, and you're stuck in an environment when you see life as something that is happening to you. You are
Instead
at effect instead of cause.
Yeah.
You're back at effect instead of cause. And so when you recognize you're stuck in an environment, shake it off. Realize behavior will change that.
Yeah.
Change your state, move your body, breathe. Right? What's that?
You can get into a state, going back to our very first point, of a time in your life where you were in control and you knew that you were in the driver's seat, metaphorically.
And as soon as you take on new capabilities, you exhibit new behaviors, and you'll blow the doors off being stuck in an environment. Nobody has to be stuck there. You'll hear it, people complaining about life happening to them. So use capabilities to add new behaviors, and that's a very easy way. And of course, another way is simply to be at the level of identity. Your I am statements. I am an overcomer. I am strong. I'm courageous. All of these I am statements. I'm wellness man. That's right. I'm the God Hypnos in human form. Here's one that's really I put in for you, Chris.
Before we go on, though, just quick empowering question for everyone is think about that. Where in your life, because it's not going to apply universally. Not everybody is just stuck all the time.
Right.
But is there a part of your life where you are at environment, stuck at environment, and blaming the world around you or blaming the people?
Yeah.
And if there is one that you can think of, how are you going to change it?
Yep. Very nice.
All right, let's move on to number 3.
Number 3 I put in for you. It's do some relationship research. Now, remember you were getting on my case about something, as you typically do, about your detail, because you have the usual neophytes practice of getting on people's cases for not having the same skills you are, which of course you have to be about 67 to stop doing that, which is coincidentally the age I got to when I stopped doing that. Everyone isn't going to have your skill sets. And of course, when you would hammer at me with these things, remember I developed the brand new line and I'd say, Chris, this parenting style isn't working with me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that line. Let's explain that, because that is just freaking hilarious.
You go ahead. I'm stretching.
Evoking a child-parent relationship where none exists. And it's really funny. Explain that.
Which is fantastic, because there's so much implicit in it that the other person's acting like a freaking parent.
Yeah.
I heard Michael Corrin on CFRB radio say this once, and it's not inappropriate. I'm just talking history here. But talk about a pattern interrupt. One woman actually was just on his case. It could have been a man, woman, didn't make any difference. Hammering at Michael Corrin just on his youth, this and this. And he's the talk show host. And he came back with, Marion, you're not my mother. And you're not my teacher. And as far as I can tell, you're not wearing a German uniform.
Oh,
I thought, whoa, dude.
Okay, so we're not commenting on the appropriateness.
No, I'm just saying
this is simply a historical story.
Implicit. It's implicit in it, just like this parental thing isn't working. So now let's go back to point 3. Do some relationship repair. Now, by that, I mean, look at your major relationships. I look at this as a target. And in the very middle, the center of the target is my wife.
The most important relationship.
And my cats and my teddy bear. Yeah. Outside that are my closest friends. So outside that, I put you, Michael C. Anthony, a couple of other guys who are very close friends, none quite as much as you two. And then you have other friends who you don't see as frequently or aren't quite as close, that you wouldn't disclose important things to them. And then you're moving out to acquaintances and so on. Yeah. And then people you barely know, and people right down to frenemies and then enemies. And I think the bottom line is to look at this, look towards the center couple of circles of your relationships and determine, since we all need friends, we all need supporters and cheerleaders and colleagues, which of these relationships could do with a bit of maintenance work? Now, the model I use is just think of it as taking your car in for maintenance. It's running okay, but you want to keep it running okay. Are there friends that you haven't spoken to in a while, a couple of weeks? It would be important to do the maintenance of contacting them, which is even more important now with all this COVID-19 stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was thinking about another metaphor here in a different way than you just said things, looking for the areas where you might need maintenance. Similarly, you might have people who at the center of their target, they would claim are, let's say, husband, wife, whatever, the closest relationships, the ones that matter most are at the target. That's what they'll tell you. But the reality is maybe they're not focusing enough energy there. And metaphorically, if you were to think about a magnifying glass and the way that it focuses sunlight, are you focusing all of that sunlight in your life on those most important relationships, or not enough?
That's a good point. That's a very good point, because I see what can happen here. Because those are the important ones, there can be a tendency to sort of go on autopilot with them and not give them the maintenance and the focus that they deserve. And on the other end of the spectrum, Chris, we also have the frenemies, the relationships that have become toxic. And the question is, like, what are you going to do about that? Is there any maintenance that can be done to bring these back into the fold? And if not, why are you letting these people have access to your life still? We talked many times about firing your friends, which is not the actual thing that happens, but firing pseudo friends, firing associates and people from your life if they're problematic. So relationship repair, strengthening the good ones and either fixing or eliminating the bad ones that'll stop you wasting your life and their life too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Stay away from toxic people. We've said that so many times, but hey, why not repeat it?
Well, because Chris, I wanted to talk, scare you. Number 4 is look for your blind spots.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, this is a really tough thing because we all have our own reality tunnels that we process the world through. We all have ways of looking at situations based on our current status in life, our beliefs that have gone on before, just our habitual ways of processing information. But we all have blind spots, and this is a difficult one because they are blind. We're blind to them. They are hard to see. And the key with that is one really needs outside information. Mindscaping is a great way to see our blind spots. For those of you who are practicing that, have someone do a mindscape on your blind spot. Believe me, your unconscious will show you what it is.
Okay, so you mean the areas of your life that maybe you would deem very important, but you're not doing a very good job, and you're not aware that you're not doing a very good job. That kind of thing.
Oh, of course, this can show itself in many areas of life. I mean, we see people who, when we used to run the art gallery process, the guy who is running the process because he can't understand why his wife is always on his case. Mm-hmm. And then he realizes at the end of the process, it's not her on his case nagging him. It's the fact that he's an insensitive jerk, Yeah. So that becomes a blind spot. So one key thing here is ask someone close to you who you can trust, who has your well-being at heart. Not someone who just wants to get in your case.
A balcony person, not a basement person.
Yeah, when you explain that.
Not someone tearing you down, someone who wants to lift you up.
Right, that's it exactly. And listen as though you're giving you data without being emotional. Once you start letting the adrenaline trickle get in, you will start deleting what they're saying again. And stuffing this stuff back into the unconscious. So be willing to listen. So let's get to number 5.
I've got a metaphor for you on this.
I bet you do.
As you know, with COVID-19 and, of course, the kids not being in school, I have doubled my role, not as only entrepreneur, but as chemistry teacher. So my daughter's taking chemistry, and so we'll talk about chemistry quite often during the week. And I was thinking about this, as you said, treat it as data. So think of it like the mass itself, but without the electrical charge. Neutral charge is information, data, right? The emotion is the electrical charge.
That's very interesting, because when you said about, you're home now with COVID-19 and you start talking about chemistry, I thought you were going to confess to running a meth lab now or something like that.
I just thought, the mass, sort of like you have an ion that has a charge, or you just have a particle with no net charge, no positive or negative net charge. Yeah, so an emotion can be positive or negative, right?
Breaking Bad. Okay, now look, go to number 5. What do you make of this one on our list?
All right, I'm reading it for the first time here, Mike. It says, I appreciate that you gave this one to me.
Thanks, buddy.
It says, be a giver more than a receiver. Give of your time, possessions you no longer need, advice, etc. Purge your home of stuff that served its purpose. It's liberating.
It's liberating.
Yeah. And take pictures of things that you want to remember. Well, this is fascinating.
This is a brilliant point, guys. If we focus on giving rather than receiving, which is central to so many religions as well, it really changes things. It's nothing turns my crank more than being able to give someone something that really will make their life wonderful. I gave our friend Paul this incredible UFO book, and he's all over UFOs all the time. It's like 3 inches thick. I'd read it. I loved it. And I thought, I got so many books in my house. We've purged hundreds over and
You're
over.
not going to go through it again. Yeah.
Not going to go through it again. I gave it to him. He was like a little kid. He almost felt bad taking it. But what a blessing for me it was to give that to him. I just love the experience.
The key here, though, is he almost felt bad, Mike. He didn't actually feel bad. Yeah. And there should be a lot of guilt in that.
Oh, thanks.
No, I'm kidding. On his part, I'm just teasing.
Yeah,
I know
you're giving me a hard time. That's what you're giving, and I'm not receiving it.
Now, there's a cool thing here. If you were to try on this reframe,
yeah,
if it makes sense as listeners there, everybody does everything for selfish reasons.
Yeah,
including giving,
including Mother Teresa.
Yeah, including giving. And if you think about it, really think about it. Giving does what for you?
Makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Makes you feel happy.
More valuable, more optimistic, or it could be anything, but it's doing something for you. You wouldn't give if there was nothing in it for you.
Yeah, there is a benefit.
And the fact that there is something in it for the other person is what causes you to feel good about it, which is what's in it for you.
Yep. Although we'll probably get a lot of emails in this. I'll just be having my finger ready to delete. Because
exactly. Because if you complain about it and don't understand the point, we're not saying giving is bad and selfish. We're just saying there's always a selfish element to it.
Yes, there is.
Correct and fine, and that's the way the world should work. You should help other people and feel good about it selfishly. And if you don't like that, then we're just going to delete your emails, right?
Pardon? Scary? I think I wasn't listening. No, look.
I thought you deleted the conversation.
Purge your home. Purge your home of stuff that served its purpose. It's getting rid of stuff. It was very hard for me to do this. I'm an Enneagram 8. I build walls around my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And to give away things, it was very difficult. We put a ton of stuff in our church yard sale. I just gave my old Dell computer, which still works, to our friend Ryan. He reconditions them, gives them to underprivileged kids. I mean, it's fun. But I don't need that anymore. I don't need that stuff here. And it is liberating. And the thing about taking pictures, and with this point, we've got to move on, get to point 6, and then we have a commercial coming up. But take pictures of things you want to remember. My wife told me this, and it's freaking brilliant. If there's something that's important to you, it's time to let go of it. Hold on to things of this world with a light grasp. Take a picture of it with your iPhone, whatever. And then you can look back at the picture. It'll fire that same state that you had when you had that object or thing, which I think is really, really important to do. You're grinning at me on this camera, and I have no idea why.
I'm grinning because when you said iPhone, you know how, of course, just for historical correctness, as people listen to this into the future, this won't necessarily make sense. So I'm going to say it this way. Right now, the most up-to-date iPhone on the market is the iPhone 11 Pro Max. And both you and I have that particular phone, and we love it. And so we always annoyingly point out to anyone, would you like me to take, we don't just say, would you like me to take a picture? We say, should I take a picture with my iPhone 11 Pro Max?
Funny you should say that.
Really funny.
Funny you should say that. Last night, 20-second intervention here, 20-second interspersion. Last night I was at Paul's place. We did some social distancing, sat in his garage, which is his man cave, and he had the door open, and the rain was teeming down, and there was a huge thunderstorm. And I said, buddy, watch this. I got my iPhone 11 Pro Max, which he didn't know you can throw in the deep end of a swimming pool. Everybody get a sprinkle of rain on your iPhone or your smartphone is like, And I said, watch this. I walked outside. I was soaked by the time I walked 6 feet. It was pouring so hard. Set it on the hood of his car and came back in. Mike, you're insane. I gave it 20 minutes, brought it in, wiped it down on my shirt, and just went right back to using it. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I think it's like IP67 rated waterproofing or something.
What's that mean, engineer?
I think it's a wind-driven rain test or submersion test or something like that.
Of course you know that.
I can't remember.
Of course you know that.
Yeah. Well, I used to work as an engineer, so of course.
Well, buddy, we're running out of time, and unfortunately, we have to pause for a commercial break from one of our sponsors. Tonight on the Grassy Knoll Network.
Dave Shizjig was a normal billionaire with an enviable lifestyle. His consultancy rate was $600,347 for a single hour of his ant-proof time. But things were changing, and not in a good way. Despite the fact that he lived in a beautiful and enormous mansion in a not-to-be-disclosed location in Connecticut, he began to feel restless to get outside and spend quality time with his completely average son, Danny, and hang out near the dead magnolia tree on the Shizjig presidential lawn. Danny had been given a SpaceX toy rocket kit by close family friend Elon Musk, capable of flying at twice the speed of sound, and he and his father set it up on the flight scansion and activated the countdown sequence. All was going well at first, but as the Dragon rocket entered the unstoppable final 10-second launch sequence, Danny noticed that part of the titanium flight framus that controlled the Tesla technology distral aileron extruder was still in the Amazon.com box, unattached. It was too late to abort the launch, and the Dragon rocket blastoff was deafening. The space vehicle left the Shizjig estate and reached Mach 4 in seconds. But then disaster struck. In the absence of adequate checks and balances, the rocket assumed a parabola and then a terrifying arc, striking Mr. Shizjig directly in the left testicle, causing immediate and agonizing disenfranchisement. With his father lying helpless under the dried-up magnolia tree, Danny ran next door to request help from their neighbor, who, as luck would have it, was a famous surgeon. Unfortunately, the surgeon was on the golf course, and his unusual son, Spunkaluccio, offered his help. The surgery was experimental at best, and the testicular disenfranchisement progressed to deconsolidation. Danny ran for his father's security team, which included a helicopter pilot, but as bad luck would have it, the entire team was playing golf with the surgeon. Danny appealed to his unusual friend Spunkaluccio, who claimed to have a rotary wing aircraft pilot's license. He was lying, though, and when he punched up the collective, engaging the rotary joystick, the AH-64A Apache attack helicopter lifted on the ground cushion, and Spunkaluccio began firing the chain gun, releasing hundreds of depleted uranium shells into Mr. Shizjig's already flensed left testicle. It was the worst thing that could possibly happen. But just at that moment of encroaching darkness, Danny noticed the sweet scent of magnolia blossoms as the lawn tree bloomed into pale pink flowers. Everything was going to be all right now, because everything changes when the lawn tree blooms.
I looked out of my room.
He looked out of his room,
and the lawn tree blooms.
not a moment.
Blooms in the middle of June, little white balloon, and the lawn tree
blooms.
and the lawn tree blooms.
The Lawn Tree Blooms, tonight at 2:12 a.m. on the Lee Harvey Shizjig Network.
As we proceed here, buddy, we're going to have to fly through these.
We are on number 6 now, right?
Yeah, learn to listen more. This is something that's taken me freaking years to sort of get down. There is a tendency in human nature, especially for those of us who think quickly, to be listening to our opponent in an adversarial argument, or even to our partner in a close relationship, in terms of framing our next point.
Oh, yeah.
So
you're not listening. You're just thinking about what you're going to say next.
Exactly.
If you actually hear that, you'll notice, if you're a bad listener, that you're probably doing that.
Could you say all that again? Because
you weren't listening.
Really hard to listen because it was so weird what you said. What are you talking about?
Well, everybody who is not an amazing listener is probably guilty of doing what we just described. Instead of listening, you're appearing to listen while you're really internally thinking about your response.
Yeah, that's pretty well lit.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. So give people your full attention when they speak, and let your analog response, your gestures, your nodding of your head, and so on, show that you heard them. Listening will automatically build rapport. When you give someone your full attention, everything changes because they feel listened to, and it will increase your communication loop. And you know who's great at this is Richard Hill, when he does mirroring hands. He does response sounds and gestures that empower and encourage the speaker. So,
or just repeating the last 2 or 3 words. I think Chris Voss teaches this in his book, Never Split the Difference, too, on
Never
negotiation.
Split the Difference.
If you want,
scary thing I was doing it.
Sorry, you want someone to keep talking. Take the last 3 words of what they say and ask them, and just repeat them. It'll encourage them to elaborate.
You heard the
encourage them to elaborate. Encourage them to elaborate.
So, okay, let's keep moving. Number 7, find out what your automatic reactions are and change them. We all have things that set us off. Some people, it's, specific words. It can be, oh, you look at me that way, it drives me crazy. My wife used to do a thing that would drive me nuts. When I was trimming down, she used to, and getting as lean as I am now, she would walk up and look at me with sort of a blank expression, not trying to push my buttons, I don't think, and stare at my stomach like she was baffled by it, and then put her hand on it.
And then touch it like the Pillsbury Doughboy or something?
Pretty much, yeah. Just put her hand on it. It just drove me crazy. And recognize these are triggers.
She didn't look at you and touch you and then go, or anything, right?
But facial expressions, all kinds of things will set us off. I said, do you get impatient when someone tells a Ken Sweatman story? Oh, that one does it with me. When Paul was talking last night in that thunderstorm, he started to go on and on and on. And I got to use the line. I said, rapidly losing interest. And that reined him in. But I'm not building rapport by saying that. He's laughing because he knows I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So one of the first things we need to do is to notice when we are automatically reacting. We are now at effect again. We are not at cause.
Yeah.
And we want to take on personal responsibility, dissociate, step outside the situation instead of reacting. People hear that a reactionary government, they think it's revolutionary. It's not. A reactionary government responds to what's happening to stay the same.
Yeah. I want to add in here, Mike. It's not only when you're automatically reacting, but it's when you're automatically acting. So whatever automatic action you have can be a problem, right? And that action could be the automatic action of what we were just talking about. When you're supposed to be listening, you're planning your next response and you realize, oh, it's sort of a reaction, but it's, you know what I mean? It's an action. It's your automatic action.
You're hypnotizing me, aren't you?
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
So
I'll go with
think
that.
about all of your automatic actions, including those that are reactions.
Nice. That's really good. Now, I'll let you do number 8 here, because this is perfect for you, I think.
Oh, I love this. Okay, take on a challenge. So,
like I explained, COVID-19 and weight gain is everywhere. People are actually calling it COVID-19 pounds.
Yeah, exactly.
So many people I know have packed on the pounds during this.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate response, but these are stressful times for a lot of people.
But they're days of victory too.
Pardon?
They're days of victory too.
They are days of victory. Yeah, for a lot of people though, this is a source of stress and anxiety, and it's causing people to do things like make poor choices, maybe use an excuse, be at environment and say, well, it's COVID, my gym is closed, I can't work out. So they're not eating well, they're not exercising, they're using the situation as a blame factor for what's going on. So let's take on a challenge. What can you do differently? How can you completely change the main meals that you eat so that you're healthier? How can you, I like your 2-minute rule that you and I were talking about the other day, and you posted about this in our Wellness Academy Facebook group. The 2-minute rule, as I understand it, Mike, was you did not feel like exercising on a particular day.
At all.
So you decided, I'll just do 2 minutes. As long as I put in a solid 2 minutes, I can stop and I have full permission to enjoy the fact that I did my workout. And guess what? When you start doing the workout, you enter the state, point number 1, to get into state, you start doing that workout. Now you're in state. Guess what? Your entire behavior changes and you finished your workout as you normally would have, even if you had felt great from the beginning.
Absolutely. Yeah, take on a challenge. Turn this COVID-19 lockdown or whatever's going on in your life. Look for a challenge to do something different, something powerful, something new. Stretch yourself so you come out of it stronger than ever, smarter than ever, better functioning than ever before. It's not going to happen if you coast.
Yeah.
And
Now,
number 9,
taking on a challenge, by the way, could involve your personal fitness and wellness. And this would be a good opportunity to remind you that our personal growth membership includes access to our full wellness academy, which is phenomenal training that I don't want to say it's a weight loss course because
it's not. No,
but that's
it's
the
so
result
much
that
beyond
a lot
that.
of people are getting. Right?
Yeah, it's so beyond that.
It's so much more than that. But that is the obvious result. When people look at the people who go through this program, they go, "Oh, you're so much thinner." And obviously, the reality is they're also stronger. They're also happier. There's so much that goes on.
That's it, buddy.
So check it out.
Excellent.
Yeah, take on a challenge. All right.
Something that stretches you. And number 9 is teach someone else something you're best at. What are you great at beyond most other people that you can teach someone else? Like one of my things, as you know, is British Jiu-Jitsu. I was the only instructor trainer left in the world when my sensei Bill Underwood died. And I've trained you, and I've trained Adam Sutherland, who's the best in the world at it now. He's surpassed anything I ever was. He's a natural. But one of the things I like to do is when we're able to get out is that once a week, and you do it too, you come in from Port Perry, an hour drive in, we go to class, and we don't get paid to be there, but we serve as instructors there to help brand new students and experienced students be able to protect themselves in a street fight, in a life and death situation. We are conveying wonderful skills to other people. We're sort of mentoring them in a way, and we're not expecting anything in return. It's back to the giving thing, but give what you are best at. Find a way of doing that.
Yeah, why don't you do that with hypnosis? You should teach it.
Oh, you're a swine. I don't even know why I laughed. That wasn't funny. It was so damn predictable.
It was predictable. I admit that. All right,
it's so good.
Take on a challenge was number 8. Teach somebody something that you're best at. It feels good, right? You will get it. Back to the point of it's selfish. You'll feel awesome when you teach somebody something useful.
But this is beyond. This is beyond giving and giving of your time. This is a skill you have that you don't want to die out. Pass it on to someone else. My wife and I were at a county fair, Lindsay Fair, last summer. And there was a man there, and his job is he makes handmade brooms like you'd see in farmhouses.
Oh, wow.
And the quality is just outstanding beyond anything you'd see in any kind of store. But there's actually a name for a broom maker. I can't remember what it is. It's like a besamere or something crazy. But this guy made them by hand, and he said there was no apprentice to teach it to. And he fully expected that when he died, this entire art would die out. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that is sad.
I think it's so.
Well,
I'm hoping you learn it.
iPhone 11 Pro Max, which has a really powerful video camera, Mike.
I mean, you can photograph it underwater if you have to.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's get on to our final point. This is sort of the cherry on top of the sundae here. Celebrate your victories. When you do something great, when you overcome a difficulty, when you pass an exam, when you get your black belt, whatever the heck it is you do, celebrate that victory in some way.
Celebrate the little victories and the big ones too. And that's why we always say on this podcast, these are days of victory.
Because they are, man. And whether it's the fact that you paid off your car, or you've just completed an online training, or you learned to speak Italian, whatever it is, or you saw your first online client, celebrate it, whatever it is. But plan the celebration in advance so you have something to look forward to. I remember as a kid, Chris, going somewhere with my parents. Can't remember what it was. I think it was an amusement park in Cleveland with my Uncle Tom and my parents. And I loved it. And I can remember afterwards feeling really sad because as a little boy, I remember thinking, what if that's the last good thing that I ever get to do?
Oh.
So you got to think ahead. You've always got to have something to look forward to. So tie it into a victory, tie it into some achievement so that you're celebrating. You're not just rewarding yourself for watching endless television.
It's one of those times where you actually want to encourage people not to set the bar so high. You're still just Danny. So you don't need to have a high bar to celebrate a victory. Celebrate the victories that are little. Set a low bar for celebrating victory. Your life will be better.
Yep. Excellent.
It doesn't mean you shouldn't shoot for the higher victories too.
I wonder what you're going to say there. Shoot somebody. Aim for the big ones too, but celebrate the steps on the way there. You know, with our online academy, there's 24 exams or tests and then the full online exam. And the people who work through it and pass that exam, you can share their victory online. Are they ever excited about it? Because they know they've earned that certification.
That's right.
Now, our final point is the bottom line with all of those 10 points is we are all running out of time. We all have a finite amount of time, so make your life count. Make it a good life. Determined to create a good life. I think that's critical. So, Chris, we take now.
Great advice.
Thank you, buddy. Let's go to the empowering questions.
All right. Am I reading this one or are you?
Well, since you've done it every time for the last 7 years, I think it might be a good idea to continue.
Okay. I think we've mixed them up before, but
No,
I'll read this anyway. Not arguing
Okay.
at all. No.
Any happier?
Right. Here's your empowering question for podcast 151. In view of the fact that time is disappearing for me and everyone else, what will I attend to today? What is that thing I know I need to do? That thing I've delayed doing? And how will my life improve magnificently once I take that important step?
Excellent. So, Chris, I've got a Meta 5 for you. It's called My Dad's Great Advice. My dad was a really nice guy, didn't have an enemy in the world, smart man, very high IQ, about 153, I think. And he designed some of the largest transformers in the world for universities and so on. He also designed the testing equipment for the transatlantic cable before the Telstar satellite. It was well known in the engineering field. In his case, it was all electrical. And he would have respected you as a mechanical engineer. He thought civil engineers weren't real engineers, which is kind of interesting. But that was just him. But my dad, who died of a heart attack, a number of years ago now, 1981, first son of heart disease, fatal heart attack, always miss him. But he gave me 2 pieces of advice. One is kind of funny and one is serious, but they have served me so well over the years. And his first piece of advice is the one in class is funny. He said, go when you can, not when you have to. Now, this was washroom advice.
That is so
restroom
true.
advice. And it's true. He would drive my mom crazy because I said my dad one day was sitting at the table with a slide rule before digital calculators. And I said, what are you doing, Dad? And he said, I'm calculating the exact date I will drink my 1,000,000th cup of tea. He just loved his tea. Consequently, he was a freaking walking urine fountain. He was always rushing to the washroom. Would drive my mother crazy. Okay, ready, let's go. And he'd say, I'll just pop to the washroom. Ken, I'll bloody kill you. He'd run to the washroom. But he said to me, remember, son, go when you can, not when you have to. Anytime we'd be out somewhere and he'd see a public washroom, he'd say, I'll just pop to the washroom. And that way there was never any emergencies. Always keep the tank empty. That has served me well. The second one is a more serious one, but that first one does apply as serious in a way. But this one is more serious. He said, no matter what you go through in your relationship, determine beforehand, you will always keep the communication line open. No matter how bad an argument gets, no matter how furious and dismissive you are of each other, always keep the communication lines open. Now, as NLP practitioners, me as a NLP trainer par excellence, we know, Chris, we are always communicating. Walking out of the room, refusing to talk to the person or ghosting them, that's still communicating. But he meant verbal communication. Never shut the communication down completely. Keep a line open because that's where reconciliation takes place.
Thanks, everybody. This has been episode 151 of the Brain Software Podcast with Mike Mandel, and I'm Chris Thompson. We hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode, and we will keep bringing you more awesome stuff. While you're waiting for the next episode, why not head on over to MikeMandelHypnosis.com. Check out the products that we've got for you, including the one I mentioned earlier in the episode, the Personal Growth Membership. For just a few dollars, you can get an enormous bundle of some of our best training, which includes the Personal Development Academy. It includes our anti-anxiety product, the Anxiety Solution. It includes our Wellness Academy, which is our coaching program for you to become lean, strong, and healthy. You will love the stuff we've got for you, and we're adding more to it all the time, including Easy Self-Hypnosis, which is soon to be released, and everything else. When you're in, and you benefit from all the updates, because our attitude is that we're just like Tesla. We want to give you software updates that make things better and don't cost you more.
Excellent,
all right,
buddy.
So with that said, thanks
again. And
good night.